No contract exists, but you relied on someone's promise and got hurt. Can you sue them? Hi, I'm Michael Dorff, and I'm the Executive Director of the Lowell Milken Institute for Business Law and Policy here at UCLA School of Law. In the next few minutes, I'm going to explain a legal concept called Promissory Estoppel, one way that courts will sometimes enforce promises even without a contract. The legal term for the day is promissory estoppel. Promissory estoppel is a legal claim that has 4 elements to it. First, there has to be a promise. The promisor, the person who makes a promise to the promisee, the person who receives the promise. Second element, the promisee has to reasonably rely on the promise. Third element, the promisee has to suffer some detriment, some harm, because they relied on the promise. And finally, injustice that can be avoided only by enforcing the promise, at least to some degree. Here's an example. Company promises you a job across the country. You quit your job, move across the country, show up for the first day of work, and the company says, not so fast. We actually are all full up. We don't need you anymore. There was no contract, let's assume. Can you still sue? And the answer is yes, for promissory estoppel. The company made you a promise. The kind of promise you could reasonably rely on, and you did. You moved across the country quitting your job. Were you hurt? Yes, you lost your job and spent money on the move. And can injustice be avoided only by enforcing the promise? Yes, it's unfair and unjust that the company made you this promise and then reneged. However, there is a difference between breach of contract and promissory estoppel when it comes to the topic of damages. What kind of relief do you get from this potential employer? For breach of contract, remember that the normal remedy is something called expectation damages or benefit of the bargain damages, where the injured party gets enough money to put them in the position they would have been in had the contract been performed as promised. That's not the usual remedy for promissory estoppel, although occasionally courts will do that for promissory estoppel. The usual remedy for promissory estoppel is something called reliance damages. That's putting the injured party in the position they would have been in had the promise never occurred, had they never relied at all. So in this case, that would be your moving costs and maybe lost wages until you could find another job. To sum up, even without a contract, promises can sometimes be enforced under the doctrine of promissory estoppel when we have promise, reasonable and detrimental reliance, and injustice. Have you ever relied on someone's promise that they broke without a contract? Comment below and follow for contract law that actually makes sense.